I want to get into something real quick that is brought to my attention daily and that irritates me daily from the younger generation. Okay, I get this question all the time. I get this question on email, I get it on Instagram, I get it on here on Periscope, and it's always the same reference. It goes like this: Andy, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a business, but it's hard. My parents don't support me. I don't have any money. I don't have any investors. I don't have any support. I don't have a bank loan. I didn't win the lottery. On and on and on and on and on. And the thing is that when these people email me, I automatically assume, and I could be wrong, but I automatically go into the mode of like, dude, I'm not even going to answer your question because you don't have what it fucking takes to make it. Because here's the reality. Entrepreneurial mindset is a problem solver. If you listen to the podcast today, you know what I'm talking about. All right. Entrepreneurs are people who look at things and they say, I can do this. Not look at things and find the excuses as to why they can't. We live in the greatest fucking time in the history of Earth to be successful. Okay. And if you're a young man, a young woman between the ages of 16, 15, and 25, you are at the biggest advantage in the history of Earth. Okay? And I'm going to explain why in a second. We have fucking air travel. We have fucking internet. We are able to speak like this through technology instantly. Dude, people that were in business 20 years ago, if they wanted to do business, they had to get a fucking letter and they had to write it out and they had to send it to somebody. That letter had to take 2 days to get there. And then they had to blah, blah, blah and communicate back and forth. Or they had to call each other during business hours or at home, and they had to be like tied to the wall. Like, yeah, hey man, I'm sitting here in the office. Like, dude, now we're accessible 24 hours a day. We have social media. We have ways to contact hundreds among thousands of people at any given time. The opportunity to make connections has never been greater. All right, and we have young people who have this perspective of growing up in this technology, crying and bitching about why they can't do it. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, when I started my store, there wasn't a social media. When we started with $7, I was living in the back of my fucking store on a mattress that had a piss stain on it from some animal or human. If I wanted people to know about me, I couldn't just write a little post on fucking Facebook or make a video that had great content. I had to fucking get in my car or walk heel toe down to a next door's business and the next door's business and the fire stations and the police stations and the hospitals and say, hey, I'm Andy Frisella. Nice to meet you. I have this fucking business over here that I think you'll be able to help, or that I can help you do this, this, and this. And I meet people one by one by one by one by one, which ironically is the same way that business is done today, just through different avenues. So when you're young and you're one of these people who's been brought up in social media and you look around in the internet and all this shit, you have no fucking clue how good you have it. You just don't. You have an ultimate fucking opportunity in front of you to make something happen for yourself. Okay? And the other thing you need to realize is that just because you don't have any money, that's a great thing for you. And because let me tell you why this is a good thing. When you don't have any money, you are forced to be creative. You are forced to come up with ideas. You are forced to do the fucking work. Just because you don't have a fucking $1 million or $100,000 or $10,000 doesn't mean you can start a business or can't start a business. It means that you have to get creative. And the best thing that you'll ever have as a business owner, a young business entrepreneur, is lack of funds, because it forces you to get fucking creative, which forces you to think. All right. And when you think, it's just like working your muscles. When you think hard enough and you think long enough and you don't have the money just to write a check for something, you are in a position now where you're having to think harder than your competition, which means ultimately you're going to be more creative, come up with more ideas, because you can't spend your way out of situations. Get it? Lack of resources is your ultimate advantage. And if you don't understand what I just said, go back and rewatch what I just said until you understand it. All right? Lack of resources is your ultimate fucking advantage. Don't fucking cry to me and bitch to me or write me a fucking email about how you don't have, you know, rich parents or you don't have a bank or you don't have, I didn't have any of that shit either. So when you bitch to me about it, I look at you and I say, you don't have what it fucking takes. Because real entrepreneurs make it happen either way. You don't have the money, go out and cut grass. Go out and bartend. Go out and sell fucking snow cones. Do whatever the fuck you have to do to get it. Period. But the point is, guys, you guys have to understand that we live in ultimate opportunity land right now. There's more opportunity than there ever has been for everybody. And here's another thing you young people, 15 and 25, gotta understand. Most of your peers who you're competing against have no social skills. They grew up on the internet. They grew up on video games. They don't know how to shake somebody's hand and say, hey, nice to meet you, and look them in the fucking eye and have interpersonal relationship skills. So whenever you could have those skills, if you could develop those skills amongst your own person, you're at a tremendous advantage. You have far less people in that generation that want to be truly successful than what I had or what other generations had. So like, dude, if you can fucking stand up and make yourself something, it's far easier to be successful right now for you than it ever has been. So don't write me a fucking email telling me how hard you have it, because I'm going to laugh at you. Period. You're being a pussy.
My self-esteem, even though I was building it up and I lost weight and stuff like that, I'm now around the most uncommon of uncommon people. And I'm like, my God, I'm here. Do I belong here? Do I belong? Do I belong here? So your mind has a good way of taking the path of least resistance. Whenever friction happens, friction causes growth. Whenever friction happens, that's why a lot of us don't have any growth, because when friction happens, we go the opposite direction. So in my mind, when friction happened, my mind said, oh, hey man, let's get out of here. You're not real. Right. You've lied your whole life. You come from this, you can barely read. Those things, so whenever times got hard, my mind said, you're not good enough. Right. Let's go. So my mind wasn't, my eyes, my mind weren't connected. Right. So how you combat that is this. I call it the cookie jar. You have to remind yourself. We all have a story. We've all of us have gone through very hard times. But when we're in a hard time, our mind has a way of forgetting what all we've overcome. I have a way of taking 1 second when I want to quit and saying, okay, you endured this. So I look at my life and how I came up as the ultimate training ground versus most people look at it as why? Woe is me. God, why?
Right, exactly.
Why?
Right.
I had to flip this upside down and say, hey, on a second. God was training me to be one of the baddest men on the planet Earth. That's how this was my journey. Because those things beat me, but they didn't kill me. And I was able to work around them and figure out ways through it. So when I was in the worst time of my life in Hell Week, I looked at everybody and said, I'm the most trained person here. I've gone through more mental torture than any of you all can even fathom. So I'm looking at the baddest people on the planet. I'm looking at them like this. You guys can't hold a stick. So I started looking at verses like, I don't belong here, versus like, I might be the baddest person to ever come here. Who could have pulled this off? Mm-hmm. Who could have been given a sewer to live in their mind and say, okay, at birth, I'm going to put you in the worst place on the planet Earth, and let me see if you can go to the top of the mountain with nothing, but just hard work, grit, and figuring it out, and not putting yourself back in the dungeon every time something got hard. So that's what became my daily voice was, you really are the baddest person on the planet. Right. And after a period of time, you start to believe that. Right. And so that's what happened to the first Hell Week, the second Hell Week, the third Hell Week. That became my new norm. Yeah. So what most people fear, I can never go through one. I don't want to go through two. Right. Even SEALs will tell you that. That Navy, so I did 18 months in Navy SEAL training. It's only supposed to be 6 months long. Right. It became my new norm. Right. And that's what people don't do enough of. You're always looking for a new norm. And that's how my mind started saying, getting beat, getting tortured, suffering, broken legs, kidney issues. This is my new norm. And my mind started changing with the reality of who I want to be.
Yeah.
a few years ago, the Navy SEALs designed a program called the Buds Prep Program. And my last 2 years in the military, I did 21 years. They sent me down to Great Lakes, Chicago, and we were training these guys to get ready to go to Buds, SEAL training, because a lot of guys weren't getting through. We thought this program would help them get through. So these guys would leave our program studs, push-ups, sit-ups, swimming, everything. But the numbers were the exact same. So I was scratching my head, like, how in the world can these guys go through 2 months of this before they get to Buds and still quit? And I will answer your question in a second. I started going back through my mind and realizing one thing. We were building bigger, stronger, faster.